Good day, students. My name is Eberichi Mweze, and I'll be taking you Civic Education. Today, we'll be looking at values. At the end of this lesson, you will be able to define values, list and explain the types of value. You will be able to explain justice and selflessness, and you'll also be able to demonstrate incidents of selfless activities. So quickly, we'll be going to the definition of values. Here I have, values can be defined as the worth, merit, or esteem which a person or a group of people in the community or society has for a thing and idea. That means what this person is trying to say, that value is the way, or is the idea, or is the esteem, is the level of passion or that people have for a particular idea. And can also be referred to as the precepts, morals, principles, ideas, and beliefs which hold and cherish as important, meaningful, and worthwhile, which must neither be abused nor despised. Here is going to tell us values can be in form of idea, it can be in form of belief, it can be in form of custom, it can be in form of traditions. And these traditions, this custom, this idea must not be defiled, must not be despised. That means they must be held with all integrity. Now we want to look at examples of values. Examples of values, we have honesty, we have patience, we have diligence, we have integrity, we have positive dedication, we have focus. We'll be going to types of values, but before I go into types of values fully, I want you to take note of this. Do not mistake examples of values for types of values, just in case you come across them in your exams. If you're asked for examples of value, you are being expected to list things like honesty, trust, integrity, and the like. But when you're talking about types of value, what you are expected is this. Positive values, we have positive values, we have negative values, we have intrinsic values, we have instrumental values, we have absolute values, and we also have relative values. We'll be taking all of these types of values one after the other so you get to understand what these values really means. Firstly, we'll be looking at positive values. Positive values. From the word positive, you can get a clearer picture of what these values are talking about. Positive values are things and qualities which are good and desirable. For example, a student who respects and obeys the school authority is said to have positive values. When we talk about positive values, we know that there are values that are good, that are acceptable, that are presentable. And I give an example here, like for a student who obeys the authority of the school, can be said to have positive values. For example, another example is a citizen of Nigeria who obeys traffic laws, will be said to have positive values. Quickly, we'll be going to negative values. From the word negative values, you would know that negative values is opposite of positive values. And like positive values, opposite of it, negative values can be defined as values that are not good, that are not acceptable, that are not desirable, and values that are not to be found doing. As negative values are values that as individuals you should not be found doing them. Here I have negative values are opposite of positive values. These are values that are not accepted in the society, and one should not be found doing them. Examples I have here include lying, theft, lawlessness. So you shouldn't be found lying, you shouldn't be found stealing, you shouldn't be found lawless. You should obey every law stated by the Constitution of the Federation. Now we're going to intrinsic value. Intrinsic value. Here I have intrinsic values are values that are good and desirable for its own sake and itself. Again, intrinsic values are values that are good and desirable for its own sake and itself. Example of intrinsic value, you have decent dressing. Decent dressing is good for its own sake and in itself. We have temperance. Now we're going to instrumental values. We'll be looking at instrumental values. I Another word or another name or another word yes being used to describe instrumental values are extrinsic values. From the word extrinsic values, you could tell that instrumental or extrinsic values are values opposite of intrinsic values. We'll quickly look at the notes. Instrumental values can also be referred to as extrinsic values. They can also be referred to as extrinsic values. This is so that when you come across questions asking you to define or explain what extrinsic values is, so it won't be strange to you. You could know that they're also asking you to explain instrumental values. And from the word instrumental, you can know that these values are means to an end. They are means to an end. That means these values are values through which we could attain other values. I have heard that these values are values that are used to achieve other values. You could want to name good music. When you listen to good music, you could attain other values like trust. There are music that teaches you about trust. There are music that teaches you about lawfulness. There are music that teaches you about love, and a whole lot of others. So you should listen to good music. You should try and see if your music and show the music you're listening to are music that are impacting good values into you, because they are very crucial as you go on in life. Now we're looking at absolute values. Absolute values. Absolute values are universal values. That is, they are not conditioned by time or place. Absolute values are universal values. They are not conditioned by time. They are not conditioned by place. That means absolute values in Nigeria, they are applicable. In the US, they are applicable. In the UK, they are applicable. In anywhere you want to find yourself, these values are applicable at any time. Throughout the ages of life, these values are applicable. Example of absolute values, we have trust. Trust has existed from the days of our forefathers, even to date. Trust exists, and it exists as a value that is very cherished and expected of every human being. Trust is expected of every citizen of Nigeria, expected of every citizen of the UK, expected of every citizen of the US, expected of every citizen of every country in the world. So, trust, you should be trustworthy. We also have discipline. Everyone, irrespective of age, status, or wherever the individual is from, must be disciplined. It is expected of everybody. We also have hard work. There are a whole lot of other absolute values. These are just a few here I have in my notes. Now we'll be going to relative values. Relative values. Here I have relative values as to absolute values are conditioned. Relative values as to absolute values are conditioned. This means that the situation and current happening will determine the direction of the affairs. Let me quickly explain that. I want to talk about relative values. As to absolute values that, irrespective of time, of age, of place, or location, or whatever it is, they stand still. So relative values, whereby in terms of condition, the happening may determine how this value is being referred to. The timing may determine how this value is being referred to. For example, we have killing. Killing a person is bad. Every custom, every tradition, every law, every society frowns at killing. However, in some cases, killing is relatively good. For example, a court passes a jurisdiction on a person that this person should be sentenced to death by hanging. We could say that value, killing in that scenario is relatively good. Perhaps the person could be sentenced to death by hanging for offenses committed that determines or warrants such punishment. Since we know, I want to quickly go again with the types of values. We've mentioned and explained positive values, we mentioned and explained negative values, intrinsic values, instrumental or extrinsic values, absolute values, and relative values. Now I want to quickly look at justice and selflessness. I want to quickly look at justice. And selflessness. Now we're looking at the definition of justice. Yeah, I have in my notes. Justice is an intrinsic value. Justice is an intrinsic value. It means the consistent and transparent way to render everyone what is due to them. When I'm talking about justice, it means rendering to everyone what is due to them. If I am due to have 5 pencils, you should give me 5 pencils. If I am due to be punished by death, by hanging, you should punish me that way. If I am due to be sentenced to 10 years imprisonment, you should do that to me. If I am due to be given an award, you should give me the award. That is what justice is all talking about. It is rendering to an individual what is due to them. Selflessness is showing love and respect and helping others regardless of their background, with little or less concern for oneself. From this definition, we can know that selflessness is talking about helping others, showing respect to others, irrespective of their social background or their social status, showing love to everyone, irrespective of the family they come from, be they from a wealthy family or a middle class or from a poor family, be the person is illiterate or not. The same thing you give to A, you should give it to B. That is one criteria of selflessness. And again, when we talk about selflessness, you should have a little or less consideration for oneself. You're not painting or doing something, whereas the original motive of doing that thing is for yourself. Selflessness is doing it to help the person you are trying to that is on the receiving end. An example of selflessness is involvement in community service. Okay, we could draw an example of selflessness from the National Youth Service Corps. For example, in Nigeria, a youth corps is mandatorily a member of a community development service, that is CDS. They carry out sensitization program and campaign, rightly educating the public on crucial topics that matter to the development of the country. In Nigeria, after graduation, every graduate is expected to undergo the National Youth Service training, which is for a year. During the 1 year, every youth corps is mandatorily a member of a community development service, as a CDS. And in the CDS, they carry out campaigns, workshops, educating the public on matters that are crucial for the development of the public. Sometimes you see on the road, youth corps on like something like a tag on them, controlling traffic. So you see them going around, sensitizing the public on corruption, on election. For example, the last election that was held in Nigeria, you could see all around the states in Nigeria, youth corps going around with their flags and like that, telling the public, go get your voter's card, ensure you go vote rightly, do not sell your vote, all of the likes. That's a good example of selflessness, and I'm adjourning you to carry out one of these. There are several ways you could do it. It's not a must to go on the road to. You could just go on a little campaign on the internet, telling the public on the right thing, tell the public, no, do not be involved in corruption, do not be involved in theft, do not be involved in embezzlement, and a whole lot of others. So now we've come to the end of this class. There are 2 evaluations here for you to test your knowledge if you really understand this topic. 1 year you have define values. The first question is for you to define values. You define values in your own way, in your own language, what you understand values to be. Then list 5 examples of values. Remember what I said during the class, that examples of values are different from types of values, so you don't make such mistakes in answering this question. Okay, thank you for joining in and listening. I remain Ebere Chungweze. See you in the next.